Hello, welcome to Feedback for the week of December 15th. Like really close to the end of the year. I'm here.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm here. I'm joined by Abby. Happy? Say hi. Stephen Johnson.
Hi, internets.
In the middle seat.
Yes.
And fresh from Airwolf, Matt Kyle in the jumpsuit of ages. Light suit? You said it was a light suit?
The flight suit.
Oh, flight.
We were playing with helicopters.
No, but I thought he said light suit. I'm like,
No.
unless it's really lightweight.
That would be Tron, and it would look different.
Yes,
It's our
Tron.
helicopter that fires missiles, and they torture me with it at my desk all the time. You don't see this.
No, apparently not. Tortured by toy missiles?
More of an end of the day thing.
Yeah, it's like, I mean,
It's
maybe
more
they're
the
doing that
whirring
somewhere.
sound of the blades over your head.
Yeah.
And
It's really when you get it over her and she can feel the breeze
Yeah.
from it, and she just is afraid you're going to hit her because she
it's
doesn't.
got
Yeah.
that little wing
She doesn't
thing.
trust my driving.
Steven, is
No.
anyone torturing you at your end of the office?
Over on the internet, we don't have helicopters. We just have chains.
Just chains.
Chains to our desks.
You guys had those things that electrocuted you when you.
Oh,
would,
yeah,
like-
that's right. We had
I
the
took
cane.
down one of the editors with
Yep.
that. I think it was like it's like laser tag, but it actually electrocutes your
electrocutes
hand
you
if you shoot
if
the
you
other
get shot.
person. So, and it's actually extraordinarily painful.
It's how we settle any kind of disputes that we might have on the internet.
Well, that's good.
With an
That's
old-fashioned
good.
electricity duel.
That's good. Because, I mean,
We're
there's
hardcore
that
over there.
one cube that kind of screams extreme rendition.
Exactly.
It's like, all right. So we're doing today's episode because yesterday
Yesterday.
aired X Plays Best of episode for 2010. And that's that kind of yearly tradition that not us, but every other video game outlet engages in, which is a listing of the things they thought were the best, as if everyone actually has a collective mind.
It's just
so-
Right.
it's easy things to do before you go home for Christmas.
Exactly.
It's really
It's like
good.
listing things out. I mean, shopping lists themselves are kind of fun once you start ticking everything off. And so, I mean, maybe that's where the innate human, or at least American, love of the list.
But then when you
comes
get
from.
to the mall,
Yeah.
not as much fun.
No. They're like, I'm done. Now I have to put them all away. Ooh, where's the Bisquick go? It's over here. Bisquick. For
Yeah.
biscuits.
No, I know what
Pancakes.
it is.
Pancakes? You
Sure.
use it for pancakes?
So
See, that seems like an
better.
unnecessary shortcut for pancakes. For biscuits, I don't know. That seems sensible.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, the slogan for Bisquick was something like, "There's something big is coming up when you get the Bisquick down," and the idea, the idea is when you take it off the shelf, like, oh, it's like good times are gonna roll, but it just sounded like once you get the Bisquick down.
I was thinking more like, let's get that Bisquick down. Oh, yeah. Oh, look, the dough is rising. Oh, it's
Please
magical
stop.
time.
Can we just do the entire podcast about Bisquick?
You know, and then we
I
can
don't know
go
why
see,
we haven't done it already.
and then we can go seek sponsorship. It should be good. All right. So we did the best of the year. I wouldn't say that anything that happened was like on the far side of shocking. Nothing on the level of Fable 2, from a couple of years back.
And that was your fault anyway.
Yeah, that was me. That was all me. And then this year, Fable 3 didn't even make the top 6 for best of the year. So
True.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
Fallout.
In fact,
it was just total turnaround.
I
from
don't
2
see
years
Fable
ago.
on here anywhere.
For anything,
Fable
yeah.
is not on here.
I mean, the I think I threw it out there at one point, maybe for animation and some art direction, but the art direction itself still didn't stun me at the same level that Fable 2 did. It looked better in terms of its clarity and stuff like that. But let's not talk about what's not on the list.
Okay, let's talk about what's on
Because
the
we can
list.
talk about every other game that came out. So our big winner of the evening was Mass Effect 2, taking
Yes.
Game of the Year. But it also got Best Writing. And
RPG.
and Best RPG, which kind of stands to reason, it being an
Well,
RPG.
we didn't always do it like that.
No.
No. Sometimes we've split the baby in two, and one half was the arms, and that got Game of the Year, and the other half was the legs, and who's going to want that?
Best
But
action
that was,
adventure or
best
whatever.
action adventure game. I'm gonna get a letter for that. So, I mean, I know I really like Mass Effect 2. I know that was a big love of yours.
Oh, yeah.
from this year.
I'm
Abby,
actually playing
yeah.
Mass Effect. Right now I'm playing Mass Effect 1 again, so I can bring my soldier into Mass Effect 2 and play it on Insanity finally.
all right, let us know how that works. 'Cause I've heard Insanity is
Soldier,
can be
Insane?
done.
Soldier's the one that you need to do Insanity on. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
tried with my Vanguard and it wasn't going to happen. So I'm bringing my Renegade FemShep soldier in, and we're gonna see how that goes.
FemShep.
FemShep.
What does that mean to you, Stephen?
I'll tell you, I'm going to talk about Mass Effect 2 for a little bit and be the voice of Contrarian. the voice of contrarianism.
All right, your integrity is shining through right there, Mr. Johnson. Go.
Here we go. I liked Mass Effect 2, but I didn't love it. I didn't finish playing it.
Really?
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with the game or the design or the writing, all of which I could totally appreciate as being perfect. It's that I'm just not into sci-fi. I get into sci-fi stuff, and my head starts swimming, and I just don't. It's not my thing.
Now,
Not my thing.
I usually feel the same way about fantasy, but I love sci-fi. But it's like the
Then
opposite.
you know what I mean, yeah.
And I don't hate
Now,
fantasy.
do you prefer
Exactly.
fantasy?
It takes
I don't-
really, really, really good. Yeah.
Do you prefer fantasy?
To sci-fi, yes.
Just say if you're to give like the quick summation is what you see as the distinction that you favor. What is it?
I don't understand the question.
Like between fantasy and sci-fi.
I don't know, man. Something about spaceships and laser beams and technology and all that stuff just leaves me cold, and I can't even explain why it is. I just am not super into it.
It's not the same as
just not-
magic, robes, staffs, and
Exactly.
and-
We bought him a jitterbug last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll buy spells. Spells I understand and I like, but laser beams, I'm just like, whatever. Laser
what about
beams.
biotics?
But laser beams exist.
I know.
That's not
Yeah, I
really
don't.
future.
Like, I don't, laser beams are not for you
What
to
year
buy.
do you think it is? Quick.
They are.
Don't think about it.
1950s.
Speaking of the jitterbug, we all know the one with the big numbers on it.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
seen the one with the 3 buttons?
That's the best
Fire,
jitterbug.
police, and the other one says other, which I assume for most of the people consuming the jitterbug, it just says minority. So when they see one, they hit it, hoping something might be done. So
Jitterbug, like not to
I might
get
get
off
letters
on
on
a
that
tangent.
one too with the half baby. Let's see how many more we can
Going all out for the end of the year.
Jitterbug
baby.
has a service where you can fax in telephone numbers that you would like them to add to
Oh,
your
that's
phone.
good.
Okay, you know what? I could use that.
But do they
because-
have no email
I think,
address?
I think we created a new
Yeah, I
fantasy
guess they
series.
don't.
Adam Sessler and a half baby minority
Jitterbug.
button.
Minority button. Yeah, there we go. I like this. And we're going to do a series
Eat
about
that, Harry
Steven,
Potter.
There you go. Okay.
where
Fantastic.
it's just going, I don't like the technology.
kids today with their rock and roll music.
Abby, Mass Effect 2.
Oh, I played the hell out of it. I loved
know.
it.
It really is a very playable game. I think one of the most
And
playable.
I didn't make it through the first one, and I kind of about halfway through sort of lost interest and got bored, and that never happened with this one. I was totally engaged. I love the ending and the framework that they provided for all the little stories about each character to come together. That was so cool.
I mean, Matt's made the comment many times. I think it really hits it on the head that Mass Effect 2 feels more like a collection of great short stories encapsulated in this big epic story as opposed to, say, Mass Effect 1, which was like, the end of the world is coming for the next 40 hours.
Quick, look for minerals. Yeah,
And
it's
that
like-
I think, and then we had a wonderful interview with Casey Hudson, the executive producer on the game up at BioWare, and it was nice to know that they were as aware of that technique and that they realized that side missions in RPGs really can undo the integrity where it's like, I got to go save the world. Hold on. I'm going to look for gold to help out the old lady down at the creek. And it's just like, well, dude, are you a hero or not? And everything seemed essential, even though it wasn't directly related to, sort of the
It's like we talked about collectibles earlier in the year where, sometimes they fit into a story and sometimes you're like, I have stuff to do. I'm not going to run over here to get this coffee thermos. Guess what game I'm talking about?
I'm also in an interview with Casey. I mean, one would never expect someone, except for maybe Peter Molyneux, to go like, well, we completely screwed up on that first game. But I mean, they clearly looked at what was happening with Mass Effect and just were ready to throw a large chunk of how that game controls right out the window and start from the ground floor up, which for a game with the game saves, it's so connected to its first game, it strikes me as a remarkable and dramatic decision.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it
that's-
was.
I'm just throwing it out there.
No question.
All right. So Mass Effect 2, writing, Game of the Year, RPG. Another one that did really well, Limbo, which I think actually had 4 awards. I think it actually got the most acclaim from us. What was
Original game, art direction, downloadable game, and sound design.
Yeah, which all of them kind of make sense to me.
Yeah, well, I got to admit, I mean, for a while there, the bloom came off that rose after I played through it. But early on, like when I was playing that game at first, I was like, this might be my game of the year. Like,
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
And it came out just at that right moment when there really wasn't anything else. And you're like, God, I could use a game.
Well, the first time I played it was right after we finished Comic-Con. And I went to my friend's house down there, and we downloaded Limbo and played it. And it was, even though, the spider's horrifying, or whatever, just like this quiet, understated game where you just heard every footstep and little drips of water. I'm just like, this is exactly what I needed after the San Diego Convention Center.
Yeah.
for
Yes.
3 days.
It's one of those
A
games that
world where everything seems dead.
it's one of those games that uses the tools of video games to tell a story in a way that you could never tell
Right.
through any other medium,
Right.
and that's what was fascinating about it to me.
And what's nice is
Unbelievable.
that story, it doesn't, there's nothing certain, but there's something that you're pretty certain about.
Right.
And that's what I loved about it. I think that is pretty unique to games. That, yeah, you could probably get that out of, a fairly tedious, independent animated film.
Fair
But
enough.
I think with the interactivity, you get over that tedium. I think that I was really into it, and as I was getting to the end, spoiler, I really thought it was going to end where it began, and I began to kind of have this sense of dread about that because I was like, oh,
You wanted
God.
something to
I felt like,
happen.
oh no, that's going to feel a little bit sort of adolescent and nihilistic, like, aha, I showed you there's no purpose to the life. I don't know why I used that accent, but that was kind of fun and unexpected. Now it's the light suit.
Yeah,
flight
the
suit.
light suit. Yes.
But then to kind of go there and take that one extra step to where it actually ends, like took that game from like, wow, this is a great game to that was a thoroughly satisfying experience. I mean, it's and then like sound design. I don't think anyone's written in yet to complain about that, but we were saying that sometimes you need to, reward sound design for the lack of sound, which is
true.
exactly this game.
It's not
And
just
reward
sound
art
effects.
for the negative
Yeah.
space.
Lost
Exactly.
the negative space.
It's all about the notes that you don't play.
Yeah.
Are we done yet?
I will.
Look at Frank shaking his head at us.
Look at
like
that
he's
writer.
like, what the-
Who's the writer who is saying the toughest part about writing is you have to know when to kill your babies, and what he really meant was the stuff you really like.
Wasn't
Yeah.
Stephen King.
I'm just gonna bring that back in,
What if you
throughout
don't
the
like
course
babies?
of the show.
Then
Well,
you-
then
you
writing
cut-
should
yeah.
come very easily for you.
And then
It's
you
like-
cut them in half, and it's
so
Okay, now I'm going to get a letter. Thanks.
also the art direction. I think that's the first thing everybody notices about Limbo is just that sense of place, or the lack of understanding of the sense of place. I mean, the other part I recall is playing it, and when you suddenly see the first boy that's alive, and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting
but
that.
he's not.
Well, you remember the one with the spear?
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah, you just see those guys.
They
You're
don't
like, hold
last
on,
very long.
where am I? But it's just, I kept on going like, I just want to see a little bit more to see if there's just a touch of clarity what this hellhole is, which I never really. I mean, it was Limbo.
I figured it was Limbo. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't expect neon.
I never went under a low bar, so
Yeah, wouldn't that be? How did those two things come to mean? Use the same name, like a fun Caribbean dance that hurts your back.
the Caribbean dance is
Or-
almost certainly white people hearing something wrong. I would
Yeah,
think.
I would
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
It's
It
a
was-
pretty safe bet in most
Guess
linguistic
who's
conundrums.
going to Wikipedia
Probably-
after feedback?
Probably if you're if you're going through like history of the West, that's probably like a kernel of it. Like, Russia, France, and England go like, hey, I hear Afghanistan's great. Oh, God. Oh, yeah, we can take Russia.
They lied to me.
Another game that was, and I think this was surprising, not just that it won these awards, but that we gave it quite a bit of acclaim, was NBA 2K11.
Sure.
Which Mike Delonzo made us very, very aware of the fact that this game was not just an excellent sports game, but really kind of rose above that level to become like it's becoming easy to say this, but yeah, you walk into a room and you look at that, it's basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always found that basketball is also a really tough, like that's the toughest sport to transfer to a video game because of just like the size of the court, the way that you pass, and just
That's
kind
Blair
of.
Herter.
Oh, that was Blair Herter.
Yeah.
Or
He's
that other guy that looks
alive.
like Blair Herter.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's reassuring. Moving on. No, it won for best animation because, as we've said on this show before, the more you have kind of games where athletes or characters are in some state of undress or enough skin is showing, it's got to look good.
Yeah.
Animation
Well,
becomes
that
kind of
came
central.
down. I remember that was a close call between God of War and NBA.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think it's just, and like God of War can cheat a little bit because it's myth and
Yeah.
it's total fantasy, and then but you look at basketball and you're comparing this to a rock solid real thing, and I think 2K11 holds up pretty well.
Yeah,
So
right.
and the animation is so integrated in how you play the game.
Yeah, I mean, it really, if the animation isn't good, the game can't play right.
Right.
It's not just two things.
And if you think about the variety of different animations you need to accurately represent a game of basketball, I mean, it's staggering. Just the sheer number,
And you have like
volume.
certain athletes with certain techniques that need to
Exactly.
read familiar to the eye. It's yeah, wow.
And recreating Jordan,
Yeah, and which
which no one's had to do in the modern generation very
yeah,
much.
that's
really.
true. There's quite a few athletes who are like, I got to miss that opportunity to put the the big sock on with the balls and run
What?
like the mocap.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
It's
I would probably explain that to people differently.
The sock with the
the
balls.
sock with.
It's the end of the year. Everyone understands my shorthand,
So
right?
that's a sock. This is a light suit.
He just learned our names last week.
All right, so NBA 2K11. Another one that this did not come as any surprise. StarCraft 2, winning both best multiplayer and the most obvious of the year, best strategy game.
Yeah.
That one you could have probably called from January before the game came out. But I mean, StarCraft. I was thinking about this earlier. Is StarCraft? Is it as remarkable to us because that single player was so much more polished than what we've ever expected from a strategy game? I mean, we like would we still be as remarking on it now, this far into the year, if that aspect was there? Could the multiplayer have just carried it all the way through?
I think so. I mean, it's a worthy multiplayer follow-up by most accounts to something that has been, I think, probably the biggest professional gaming item for 12 years in the world. So, and the fact that they were able to come back after 12 years and say, like, hey, here's something that can succeed it. And everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in.
yeah.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah, you
it
did a
was,
good job.
that's an account, most people have trouble living up to the last game 2 years ago
Yeah.
that wasn't even all that good in the first place, and now you're dealing with like, oh, we'd like to make a sequel to one of the greatest things ever.
And it's also because like the mechanics of a strategy game, I think more so than other types of games, you don't want to tinker with too much. Like assuming that you
don't
did
want
it
to do
right
that
the
with
first
any
time.
game that people play
Yeah.
widely, because you make too many changes and then you have the core players going, not for me.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't like what you did.
Actually, I haven't. Is there much? We know that Korea's not taking to it, but that's for like a whole
That's
range
the
of reasons.
BattleNet.
Yeah, that's the BattleNet
LAN
stuff.
party
Right.
issue.
But I mean, are there core original StarCraft players that are like, no, we'll not accept? I haven't seen much of that.
I don't
You
know.
haven't,
That's,
but then you got to wonder. Like, I think the real test of StarCraft 2 is going to be in 2 years. Are people going to be playing StarCraft 2 or still playing StarCraft? I mean,
Well,
I
there
think
is going
there'll
to be. Is it probably 2 years from now? I'm going to
I would
assume
guess the
by
next one.
Blizzard time, the next
Yeah,
installment
the
of
next installment.
StarCraft 2.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, will the core game of StarCraft 2 be the thing that actually replaces StarCraft, or are people going to be like, go back to StarCraft? You know
I
what I
know,
mean? Like, that's the
that's-
real test of
I
it.
think
Like, who
I
knows?
think the BattleNet integration and the the achievements and the ladders and the stat tracking and all that, like, that is going to kind of be what anchors it more, because that's such an involving thing that I think it'd be hard to go back to vanilla BattleNet
Right.
for old StarCraft after that. I think that was their plan, and I think it's working. And then I'll be interested to see how well the Zerg installment sells. Like, will this? Because a lot of people were really complaining. I mean, there were people that were complaining that we shouldn't even have given it a 5 because it's not a whole game. Yes, it is a whole game.
Yeah.
It's 30 missions. It's fine. But are they going to be able to sustain this for another 30 missions?
No. Well, also Zerg sustaining. I mean, that's.
Kerrigan is a compelling character.
Oh
I mean,
no,
you can-
I didn't mean sort of narratively, but just it is just a different animal.
Yeah. Well, they didn't
I
have a
realize
problem
that.
when this one like coming. They really sort of took the gloves off and were like, "What should we do for this level? Anything we want." So I think it. As long as they keep that mentality, I think they'll have something they can sustain.
Zerg spelled backwards is Grez.
Mm-hmm.
that's a good
you
point.
figured something out.
Look at that.
What does Grez mean?
multitasking. I have like a dual core processor up there.
okay.
Adam spelled backwards is Mata.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to make something work with that, and then everyone just wants to put that other M there. Ooh, Madam. Ooh, Adam's not a boy. He's a girl. Madam, I'm Adam. Palindrome.
We're all drunk.
Sorry, everybody, we're drunk.
God, I wish I had that as an excuse. I do. Okay, Red Dead Redemption. I really, as one who was tallying a lot of the votes, it was really kind of a Mass Effect 2 v Red Dead Redemption type thing in a lot of places. It won Best Action Adventure Game and Best DLC for Undead Nightmare. But I mean, I think that It's funny. Red Dead, I think, is the larger game phenomena that happened this year. I know there's even like Cataclysm and there's StarCraft, which I think even sold better. But I think in terms of something that kind of made an imprint on this year, and for better or for worse, we are going to see residual aspects of in the years to come. I think it's Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, if anything gets
Yeah.
Gun 2 made.
Oh God.
Well, there was such a question mark about Red Dead before
yeah.
it came out. I mean, like
We didn't know what
we
to
didn't really
expect.
know. And then when it came out and dropped and was so fantastic.
And
In The Office, it was all anybody
in
talked
my
about,
mind,
you know?
significantly better than Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah, I agree.
loved it.
And
Completely.
I think
Way
that was
more.
the thing, is that people over time start to have this weird relationship with the Grand Theft Auto games because they're so remarkable. And then you start to kind of step away from it and you're like, yeah, but man, if there wasn't that kind of traffic
Yeah.
and like those things where you're like, I don't know if I want to go back to it. And Red Dead it's much easier to go back to than I think
Well, I'd
any
go
of the
so
other
far as to
games.
say it's probably the best thing Rockstar's ever made.
Yeah,
I think so, too,
I would say so as well, and I think it's put me in a much better state with L.A. Noire, which really I was like, I don't know how you do this, and
Yeah.
Abby's got a chance to see it.
Yeah, Matt too. Matt was with me.
Okay, but and it seems
Lucky.
that they now seem to have a level of confidence and an understanding what they need to do and how much time to take to have a genre game. Really,
And they've
really
got
come
something on
polished.
that one. I don't know if you've been following it at all, but
It's very
they've got.
interesting.
I'd put L.A. Noire as my number 2 most wanted game for the early part of 2011 after Old Republic.
Okay, all right.
Get that? No. Old
for me,
Republic
it's
might
number
as well
one.
not even get a number.
Yeah.
That's the same thing we were talking about earlier with the sci-fi. I mean, I'm not as interested in Old Republic because
Steven
I mean,
Johnson doesn't like Star Wars.
Star
Take
Wars
to the
is not
message
science
board.
Star
fiction.
Wars sucks. No.
Star Wars is fantasy,
But
just so you know.
okay.
but
We
it
can
has-
argue this for the rest.
If
of the
you want to
episode.
talk about like 1940s detective stuff,
See,
that's
that's-
what I'm down with. I mean,
So
that,
excited for
is-
that.
It's
Wait
such a
till
great
we
world.
theme an episode of feedback to like kind of fit in with
I
that.
don't know if I buy men wearing all those hats.
Men in Hats is the fantastic. See,
You don't think
again,
so?
Red Dead Redemption.
He
Men in
cannot
Hats.
buy lasers. I cannot buy hats.
I just know you well
But
enough.
hats are real, Matt.
You see how that works?
Can't wait to
Abby,
get hat
Abby,
upgrades.
Since we digress, what are you looking most forward to?
For next year,
Mm-hmm.
Portal 2 is definitely up there for me. But yeah, after seeing L.A. Noire, that is climbing my charts incredibly so.
Yeah, I mean, I am with Steven on the 1940s detective thing. It's just,
And also, we live here.
You know,
yeah, we
Yeah.
live in L.A. I mean, it's one of those. Steven, I'll ask you this:
Yes.
if we had the opportunity, they said, okay, you can spend a year of your life back in the late 40s, and you can be a detective. It probably wouldn't live up to expectation, would it?
No, I'm going to guess that you'd spend a lot of time following around people for divorce cases like detectives today. But at the same time,
Well, like the very beginning of Chinatown, where it's just like,
Exactly.
hey, look.
Well, and what they give you as a setup for this one is it's 1947, so it's like the most crime-ridden year, and they do move you around from like different desks, as far as we were told, you know, in the police department. So,
And if
but you
you're in
don't have to
nine-
handle like traffic crimes.
and I think
if
Is,
you're
is-
19
is that how you level up? It's like, okay, you can be one desk closer to where
Pretty
the chief
much.
is sitting.
it actually is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I-
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
the mechanic, right? As you go up to
You go up to homicide, and if
But
it's 1947 L.A. homicide, that means Black Dahlia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that like we have a popular conception of the 40s and times in the past of being really innocent times. That's what people talk about. But man, if you really look into the 40s, it was anything but innocent.
Yeah,
And I think
I mean,
this
they
game
didn't
is gonna
talk
do
about
that.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve, you
Johnson
lived
just
out
wants to
in
do
this.
hookers and blow.
I know exactly. Hookers and blow, baby, in 1947 with a fedora on. It's
You
gonna
buy
be
that shit
beautiful.
legally.
Man, that's when you did smack with style. Yeah,
That's when you go to opium dens.
Yeah, I know that. See,
Nowadays,
casual
you got your
racism,
shooting galleries,
heroin.
but there's nothing like an opium.
Yeah,
den.
maybe we should make an effort, and God forbid he actually watches the show. Let's initiate an offer for James Elroy to join us when L.A. Noire actually comes out, because that would be one hell of a feedback. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that way.
Oh my
Seriously.
goodness.
So let's take a look at some of the other game
also
categories.
rans.
Well, not the also rans. I'm actually another game. Best shooter and best multiplayer went to Call of Duty Black Ops.
Best multiplayer went to StarCraft.
That's right. I forgot that. No, I take that back. Scratch that from this tape.
Stricken from the record?
Yes. Best shooter went to
Yes.
Call of Duty. Call of Duty really kind of, it's not a shock it got best shooter. It didn't show up all the other places. That's not to say it is a bad game. But I think, because once again, if anyone didn't know, this was all voted by like, hey, put down your top 5 in each category. We then collated that, ranked them. We then had our ballots, and people checked off one in each category. I think for some people that there is a little bit of fatigue with the franchise. Not that there's anything wrong with the game in and of itself, but it
Well, I mean,
is
even to me, the real appeal in that game is the multiplayer.
right. It is a multiplayer.
And that multiplayer that is, essentially the multiplayer that they've been doing since Call of Duty 4, just, kind of more tweaked and balanced. And, I appreciate it because I play it a hell of a lot. But, I'm obviously, you can make a very easy case for StarCraft for best multiplayer.
Because there's a lot of people like you playing StarCraft. See, playing StarCraft as much as you play Call of Duty.
Yes,
See?
exactly.
Right.
Yes.
God, I'm glad it's the end of the year because I have things to do. My sentences are half the length that they're supposed to be. Let's best music rhythm game, Rock Band 3.
Not a surprise? No,
not a surprise at all. But once again, this was a remarkable game, and I think there's a lot of there are quite a few people that are quite enthusiastic.
We were talking about it in terms of Game of the Year as well in some of our meetings before we actually picked the nominees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did a fantastic job with it. It's sort of everything that you want. Plus, the extras like the pro mode and Rock Band Network. It's fantastic.
It's really, it is the best music game that will ever come out, I think. I think even in the future there will never be
I hate
one
to
that's
say
better.
it might be the last music game to ever
Yeah,
come out.
that's what I'm saying.
At least if this is a swan song for a genre that revitalized this industry, you really couldn't do much better than Rock Band 3. But yeah, I am a little bit.
Bring me my Elite Beat agents. Sorry, I want another one so bad. Don't ever say that the music game, rhythm game industry is dying.
All music
they have
games
to make that.
Accepting
They did make
Elite
it. They just
Beat
didn't bring it here.
No, I have all the Japanese ones. I imported the Japanese ones and played those, and I'm
both of
done.
them?
Yeah. Well, there's a 2, and then you have the 1 here, and
Then there's DX and EX and 2 and I don't know.
No, they
Yeah.
just did the
Best fighting. That's obviously your corner. Super Street Fighter 4. I don't think it's a surprise at
No,
all
it
that
wasn't
one. Was this a good year for fighting games or a bad year?
In comparison to like 2005, yeah, great year for fighting games. Comparison to like 1999, not some. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's getting up there. Hopefully, the momentum continues through through MVC3, and you've got Street Fighter Cross Tekken and those coming up. Capcom's throwing everything they got behind this little fighting renaissance. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I hope so. I really like what they're doing. I really like what they're making. And you've got like stuff like Guilty Gear and BlazBlue finally coming back, and even SNK starting to think about putting out some King of Fighters games that are actually worth playing for once, and in the recent past. And so yeah, it's a bit of a renaissance.
All right. So from fighting, with that in mind, let's talk about deathmatch. That's we've been running this.
What about racing? Because I think that one was a surprise.
Yeah, racing.
Oh, let's talk about racing.
I thought that split-second winning was shocking at first because I am, to the core, Gran Turismo 5 fan. Love that game. And
Gran Turismo 5 or Gran Turismo?
Yeah.
Well, I really like 5.
I think you need to be a Gran Turismo fan to forgive a lot of 5.
I don't think you need to look at it in terms of forgiving it. Like, I don't think there's all that much that demands forgiveness. I think that they made stylistic choices that might not be to everyone's liking. But at the same time, I see the logic in the choices that they made.
What's the logic behind the UI?
The logic behind the UI is that it's your race, not the race of the other drivers that you're worrying about. Although the UI was the UI. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the AI.
Not the AI.
Yeah, the UI, the user interface.
I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, like, I really didn't have a problem with it.
You didn't mind going in 3 screens deep to the racing thing, and then realizing you need another car, and then backing out to the garage and switching to and then seeing if you had it in the garage, not in the garage, but you need to go buy another car, and then you got to go into the tuning shop to change the oil because that glitch is still there. Then you got to go back 3 screens deep into the racing thing. Forza spoiled me on that. Forza's interface is so great that like it's hard to go back to this, especially when it takes 3 to 4 seconds to load between every screen.
Well,
once you get those tires on the road,
what? I will say that the loading times were abysmal, and that was a horrible part of the game.
And the thing with the AI is like I don't think people mind if the AI was as brain dead as it was in the other Gran Turismos, fine. But once you level up, there is great AI in there, but
Right,
it just
yeah.
doesn't give it to you for 20 hours, and it's like why, along with the damage, and you're like, why?
But that's why. Because for the first 20 hours, you should be worrying about how you're driving your car. Your relationship to the other cars doesn't matter until you're a good enough
I know
driver
how
that
to
it
drive my
matters.
car.
Yeah,
I
Steven,
think they should just let me turn it on or off.
Let me get some background on you. Are you a race like a racing sim game fan?
You know, I hadn't been until really honestly recently. And now I've been playing a lot of Forza, I've been playing a lot of GT5, and so I'm not like I don't have a huge history in racing sims. And I think that it might be just a lack of experience that I'm like, whoa, this is the greatest thing ever. But then having played Forza 3, and like, I don't think there's even any comparison. GT5 is a lot better to me.
Well, Split Second won, and Abby, I know you are a huge fan of Split Second.
I loved it. I mean, I actually played more racing games this year than I think I ever have in past years. And that for one, I played all the way through to the end. I enjoyed myself the whole time. I wasn't able to put it down at points. I think just the excitement of where the explosions are going to happen and how the course is going to change and everything. It was something I hadn't seen or played before. It was really exciting.
Now, I think what we just illustrated right here, you were just talking about, sort of the racing sim, the oil changing and everything, and she was just talking about the explosions on the track. It's interesting. I was talking about this with Matt. Like back when I started out, in the 90s, we could have had racing arcade and racing simulation and had a very easy time finding
Yeah.
5 games
Lot
for
of
each.
driving games back
You
then.
don't have that anymore.
Nope.
And
Yeah.
that we did have to kind of hodgepodge two completely different types of games
Yeah,
together.
it's not quite fair. And I
It's-
mean, you
it's
look at
very
the
unfair,
list, and
yeah.
I mean, there's like one racing sim versus like 4 that are super arcadey and
Yeah.
Yeah,
not,
but you would have thought that. Like, I guess people really like arcadey racing games much better because
I think
due
they
to the way
sell.
that we did the winners of this thing, you would think it would split all the votes between the 4 other
I also
games.
think, look
But-
how long it took Polyphony, but
Yeah.
and to the Forza team's credit, not as long for them, but it still takes a while to do one of these games. And I think if you're doing it and you don't know if it's going to sell,
Well, and I think also Gran Turismo killed that market to some
Yeah.
degree because nobody else could match them for years. Forza is really the first series to step up and kind of succeed,
and because it
on any
doesn't
level.
really directly compete
And-
with Gran Turismo,
Right, because they're not the same platform. But it's just like there's this feeling. Aside from Forza, there's almost this feeling of like, why bother?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to do what Polyphony can do. So why are you even in that race? Why don't you just make something that's going to appeal to the Explodey Racer fan?
Are you an Explodey Racer fan?
I like explosions.
I like explosions.
I would have gone for Need for Speed. Would be my pick for the year. But I
I've
like
also
Split-
enjoyed that.
I like Splits.
I like Need
like
for Speed a
Split
lot.
Second. as well.
I was a fan of the Mod Nation Racers, so there.
I didn't like Blur very much.
I didn't care for Blur.
No.
Not really.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hey, look, okay, we finally found unanimity here on the best racing category. The last thing I want to touch on is Deathmatch. G4TV.com has been doing this. We've been hyping it up here on feedback. It was this bracketed match of death between games that can't actually die. So it was really ethereal. It came down to 2 final ones. Mass Effect 2 v StarCraft 2, both sci-fi, both have 2s. But entirely different from that point on.
Yes.
Turns out StarCraft 2 won. Obviously, Blizzard has a large fan base, but I think the mere fact that an incredibly popular and accessible RPG was up against one of the hardest core forms of games that has been sort of losing ground to just about everything else, unless it's actually made by Blizzard. I found it somewhat remarkable. And
Interesting, yeah.
Power of community.
I think. I mean,
I think so too.
and both games have large community.
Yeah.
I mean, BioWare's got yay.
But then, the StarCraft community and the community of people that are serious about StarCraft because they love it so much. I mean, they are the kind of people that are going to go like, StarCraft will be
Well,
victorious.
there's also,
Where Mass
since
Effect
there's a
isn't as rabid,
multiplayer
I don't
element,
think.
don't you think?
Oh,
'cause there's
yeah,
a multiplayer
totally.
element which really keeps that community engaged and staying with and paying attention. Whereas Mass Effect, I picked it up every time that there was DLC for it this year. But as soon as that last DLC is done, I'm waiting.
There's
for
no
something
mods
else,
that
you
someone
know?
else is making that you
Exactly.
can play with. Yeah,
Well,
I
It's
mean,
a
also, I
very
think-
finite game time.
Right.
I think you've also got like you've got kind of a split on the Mass Effect vote where Mass Effect fans, a lot of them are playing on the PC. If you're a PC gamer, I think you're going for StarCraft in that race.
yeah, that's a good point. We didn't sort of think about the platform split there. That
And
you
then
know,
I'm sure a lot of PS3 fans voted for StarCraft 2 just to keep the perceived 360 exclusive off the top
Yes, it's one of those. Wow, I know there are governments out there that function that way. It's like, okay, we'll bring you into our coalition. Yeah, come on. Yeah, we're the Likud party. Come on over here, crazy guys.
I was sad to see the Bayonetta didn't get anything.
I know you're a big fan of Bayonetta, so I'll give you a platform right now
talk.
to talk about Bayonetta.
I was like, do I stand on it? I'm sorry, I'm dumb today. No, I mean, like when I look back over all the games that I played this year and all the stuff that was like different and stood out. I mean, not that it's the most unique thing in the world. It is very much the best Devil May Cry game ever. And I just, there was something about it. I found the characters sort of like weird and charming because they were so weird, and the way that the game just kind of escalates. It's almost like boss battle to boss battle to boss battle, but everything just goes absolutely crazy. It was fun to have a game this year that was just nuts. Like,
Yes.
I can't, I mean, and the fighting was amazingly fun. The animation was spectacular. I love the art direction. It still stands out to me. It's still actually on my short list for game of the year.
I love that game.
Yeah, and I also thought it was an interesting subversion of like the way it was sold. It looked like it was going to be like just like a
Sexy time, and
sexy
it
time thing,
wasn't.
and it was because I don't get the impression that Bayonetta is so much meant that you're supposed to want to sleep with her so much as you're supposed to want to be her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of sexual
then
innuendo, but
sleep
it
with
didn't
other
come
people.
off in that cheap, weird,
There's a drag queen element to her.
yeah.
I think.
Because when I think back on like Devil May Cry 4, I think of the female, I think on a bridge. And
Yeah.
if you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. But it is like, and I didn't get that feeling with this one.
Man,
And
we should make that game or that app. It's just like,
on a bridge.
so who are you working for? I'm working with this new developer. What are you making? On a bridge. I think I might have to check that game
Oh,
out.
Toab. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, working on Toab too.
Oh boy.
And I want to have a moment to talk about best soundtrack, which was won by Disney Epic Mickey, which was a very, very excellent
Yes.
soundtrack. But Blair Herter and I think, would like to throw our votes behind Nier for best soundtrack, because Nier is fantastic in the soundtrack department. It really is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard for an RPG in recent years, and it just nails the atmosphere of that game over and over and over. And they did an exceptional job on it. I believe they're about to come out with, I think next quarter. I think quarter one they're gonna come out with like a new album on it or something. Like that.
I think one of the other interesting things about Nier is I can't think of the last time that Square had a new IP they just kind of threw out there, at least on a console, not on a handheld.
Yeah, completely.
That
just
was
under
actually
the-
good.
Yeah, but it was totally under the radar, and
Oh.
it's like they just kind of gave up. mean,
I called it the Bouncer 2 under my breath because I just like it kind of they introduced it and it was out a few months later.
it was a lot better than the Bouncer, but it just,
Most things are better than
Yes.
the Bouncer. Yes.
surgeries that are better than the Bouncer.
Yes,
but you can get Nier for like $14 at GameStop now. So if you
So-
haven't tried it,
And there's a lot of
try
games
it.
to be had in
it's,
it.
it's actually one of the few RPGs where the second playthrough totally worth it.
All right.
New Game Plus.
Let's get to a couple questions of the week. I love this question from Explosivo, except those O's are actually zeros.
You sure that's not Abby in disguise?
Explosive. Oh, yeah.
No,
Explodey.
it's not.
She's Explodey, and that's with two E's.
Oh, okay.
It's like D. Snyder,
Don't
Explode
tell them how to
D,
find
you know.
me.
It seems like since you guys work in the game industry, well, we're kind of parasitic to the game industry, kids.
Yeah.
It seems you are obliged to play all the brand new
Best
games.
feedback ever.
We are the remoras of gaming. Yes.
Oh no, we could be those ones that kind of get into the brain and it's like wormy and it grows in there.
Oh, the ones that like parasitic, like that grow out of like bees or whatever.
Something like that. I heard about one thing in the morning. Sandra
Yeah.
Singalo, that really annoying woman on NPR here in
Oh,
LA.
yeah.
She was.
Can
talking
I be a
about, you know, the
tapeworm
brain.
of the game industry?
You go right ahead.
Okay.
You go right ahead, Steven. Live your dream. It seems you are obligated to play all the brand new games and leave the old to collect dust on the shelf. Does this ever get to you? Are there any games that you would like to play more of, but you just don't have the time? Are there any older games that you still play? Look, I'm not asking for anyone's sympathy, but yes, this is an issue. There are time, and I think it's not even so much. There are games I wish I could go back to. There are games at which I could kind of indulge in more when I'm playing them, but there's just that sense of I got to move on.
Yeah.
I got to get to the next thing. Got to get to the next thing.
Like I'd love to play Cataclysm, but I know that if I that I don't have the time to. Really
I'd love to play
invest
Pong.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, but I don't have the time to invest to get up to
Yeah.
level 80 to get it to look
Yeah.
at the cool content. So like, why start?
I mean, I have Sly Collection just kind of sitting there going, Adam,
Yeah.
play me. Come on, let's get
Yeah.
everything.
Well, I think they mean older games, like not this year.
Yeah, well,
games.
I'm
Oh, I see
playing
what you're
Mass
saying.
Effect 1 again.
Yeah.
Well, he says
But
here,
even
are
then,
there...
I mean, like, how old are we going? How far
There
are we
is a
going back? What is
parenthetical
old?
here. There is
He
a
said from
parenthetical
from
here. Are
2008
there
or
any
older.
older games from 2008 or older? And I'm like, oh, man.
Ancient.
Wow. I am the at Minesweeper. That's an old game.
Awesome.
Good, good. And with Light Jacket here, the two of you can go out and have fun adventures.
Minesweeper and Light Jacket.
Come on. Let's go find things.
Yeah.
Let's go find things and make them fly.
Yeah, I still
What's that on that bridge over there?
Kids, wait, what's...
Minesweeper on the bridge.
No, there's just two of them. Quickly, there seems to be a gap we can fly through.
Give me the flag.
Kids, just so you know, once you get to have a podcast, you are allowed to do this. So,
I just want to put my head down on the desk. You're crying. So am I.
oh, this has been a long, strange year, my kiddies. Yay.
We just
Yeah,
say
older
yes
games,
and
yeah.
move on.
Older
I think he
games.
has a valid point. There's
Yeah.
some game. There's a shelf full of PS2 games that I will never probably play.
Yeah.
And you know what, I think, and this is, I've heard from people who criticize other types of entertainment, that, you know, sometimes you do want to revisit them because, you know, your feelings change over time. You know, you know, or that the times have changed, and that, you know, you realize that, wow, that one game was such a product of its time, and, you know, values, things, you know, experiences are different now, and it just doesn't resonate the same way.
Graphics make it hard too. I mean, I remember going back to play Dark Forces on the
Camera.
PC, and it was just like, whoa, how did I get through this? I must have been amazing when I was a kid.
Ever so often, I don't know why, because I don't think the game's all that good. I'm like, oh, remember Sin? And I go back to play that, and you have to actually select that you want to have free camera controls in that game. And the whole idea that you could even play a shooter without a free moving camera is just,
Yeah, I've never played Dark Forces on a mouse. I've always used the keyboard.
yeah, it's a
different
it's
world.
kind of phenomenal,
Hideo Kojima says that's why games will never be art, is because they're too temporal.
There was actually, and to his credit, Luke Plunkett had an interesting essay up on Kotaku, comparing games more to sort of the way you appreciate a car, because there's so much mechanical and
I think
stuff
that's
like
a good
that.
comparison.
It's an excellent comparison. The Incredible White Stuff. I don't know what that means.
Yes, you do.
Oh, yeah, you're right, I do. Nougat. It's Nougat, kids.
Yes, Nougat.
He says, how could you choose NBA 2K11 and Epic Mickey over games like God of War, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Halo Reach, and Call of Duty Black Ops? Do you want to know how we do with Incredible White Stuff? Matt, you show him.
I think I liked Epic Mickey better than Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, me too.
And that's how we do it.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
I'd also like to point out that all the games you mentioned totally suck.
That's not true.
It's not true at all.
Steven
I'm just
Johnson can be
kidding.
found in the...
I'm just kidding. Those games are
I
awesome
don't see
too.
Gran Turismo on that list at all.
Hey, but you know what? You know what? I'm going to point this out for Incredible White Stuff, and to his credit, he picked something from one that was unique to each console and one multi-platform.
one multi-platform.
I
Very
actually,
smart.
I would like to tip my hat to Incredible White Stuff for not doing everything in his power to show that this wasn't fanboyism, but legitimate inquiry.
And the other thing too is that this is all chosen by a bunch of people, and we all have very different opinions.
and-
I mean, I look at this list, and out of stuff I voted for, there's a couple winners, but for the most part,
I mean,
I
certainly
actually voted
this
very
is-
differently.
And also, if you look at his list, those are all sequels, and you know what I'm saying? Like God of
Yeah.
War 3, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Halo Reach, and I feel like new IPs get probably a little bit
Well, they do stand out.
better
They do
because they
stand
stand out because there's so few of them. And
Well,
so,
actually, they're all sequels in our Game of the Year nominee list. Except,
Are they?
Except Mickey and Red Dead
Epic Mickey.
Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption is
Yeah.
a sequel to Red Dead Revolver.
oh, that's right.
Yep.
I guess that
NBA 2K11 has been going a long time, and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is the third game in the
Well,
series.
there goes that argument.
that cliffhanger at the end of 2K10 is always just. I was like, what is going to happen
gonna
in
happen
basketball
next season?
Yeah, it's true. The first 2Ks left a lot of unanswered questions that were answered in 2K11.
But
How about the part where you found out that it was actually taking place in the future? That was amazing.
See, I hated
No,
it
that would
because it
be
was
Final
sci-fi.
Fantasy X with the ball game that you played in that. Blitzball or whatever.
Blitzball, yeah.
Blitzball.
I think
Yeah.
the thing is that, coming up with this game of the year, we all have our favorites, and some of us are going to be pointing out what our personal favorites are, on the website. But I would like to say that coming to this conclusion is like making a PS2. It is a compromise. It is not the ultimate. Okay.
Ouch.
Wow.
It is an American and Japanese development team finally saying, fine, we'll do it this way.
Is the internet on fire?
What? It's true. I didn't say PS3. I said PS2. That's old.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no one has any loyalty to
Yeah.
the PS2 anymore. Right?
Yeah, I
it's
can do my
But everyone still
Rumsfeld.
has one.
PS2. That's old consoles. We're talking about new consoles now. Remember that?
Those 5-year-old consoles.
Remember old Europe and Poland's like, haha, these things were cool and new. And France is like, nah.
So we're like PlayStation Union now,
Exactly. And they all
which is kind of the PS3. It's got all 3 of them in one. If you have a 60
yeah,
gig.
that's true. That's true.
Yep.
So yes, that's it. That was our game of the year discussion. Thank you, Light Suit Matt. Steven Johnson, the man who hates all things that go.
I'm gonna wear a
pew,
Tron
pew,
suit one day, and
pew.
then what are you gonna do?
And the queen of explosivey, Abby Happy. That was it. We will be back next week as we get closer and closer to the end of the year. Clearly, we have just about enough synaptic prowess to get us through one more week. Let's just see how we hold up when we return with feedback.
I have no hope for that.
Merry Christmas.
Do you play World of Warcraft or one of its 1,000 clones? Do you know what a mob or pug is? Then you'll want to make sure to check out the MMO Report. It gives you all the massively multiplayer online news you could want in a neat little package named Casey Schreiner. Check out all new episodes every Thursday over at g4tv.com/MMO. You're welcome.